The first rule of an ambush was simple: count what the enemy refused to shoot. The next strike window was closing when Terranvel led the recovery crew onto the burned approach. Every team sent before them had been hit. The disabled defense machine still sat untouched. Rill checked her left hand. Then Gunfire cut the road behind them and left the machine alone. What did the enemy need them to do? The machine knocked from the center of the field, an uneven metal beat under the heat. Beyond the orchard drainage, the flood control pump station sat low against the pale glare, is less than #0. 5# is greater than. If the northern coverage failed during the next strike window, the city would not hear the reason. It would hear the sirens. Terran counted 6 people on their feet, 1 driver, 1 dog, and route narrowed by wreckage. Marek Brist leaned over the recovery vehicle's wheel and listened to the idle. My mother would walk. She'd be right. Kessa Roan crouched beside the passenger door. Road shoulder is softer than it looks. We take the bend, the rear sinks. The wall, Terran asked. Stone is old. Roots have opened it. The unnamed rifleman beside her pulled once at the loose strap on his glove, is less than #0. 3# is greater than. I can hold the bend while they cross. Hold people, not the machine, Terran said. Wall route, stay off the road. Kessa repeated it for the crew. Wall route, off the road, wounded first. Rill's eyes returned to Terran's left hand. The first burst sounded right of the orchard. Terran shifted toward it. Then the recovery vehicle's mirror gave her the correction. Dust kicked from the left drainage lip. Kessa's shadow snapped across the door. The sound had crossed inside Terran's head. The dirt had not. Left. Move is less than #0. 3# is greater than rounds. Chewed the road edge and tore into the recovery vehicle's rear tire. None struck the machine. The rifleman leaned past the door and fired long enough to break the attacker's angle. His glove strap caught on the frame. He ripped it free without looking and kept the crew moving. Kessa grabbed a wounded man by the shoulder webbing. He can walk if somebody owns his right side. I've got it, another crewman said. Then move him. Marek forced the vehicle forward. The shredded tire folded under the rim and dragged them toward the burned shoulder. She's pulling left, he said. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. So are they. Terran pointed at the wall. Through it. Vehicle won't fit. People will. Kessa sent the wounded through first. Terran took the rear with Rill tight against her leg. A round struck the wall and filled her mouth with grit. The machine remained intact, its broken knock steady. 4 through, Kessa called. 1 carried. Rifleman still outside. Bring him. He says he has the bend. He doesn't get a vote. The rifleman backed toward them under fire. The loose strap slapped his wrist. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than he crossed. As Marek turned the damaged vehicle toward the weakest section of stone. Brace, Marek said. The vehicle struck. Mortar split. Roots tore loose, and the wall opened with a grinding collapse. The crew spilled into the orchard while stones punched through the drainage edge behind them. A low shape moved beyond the falling rock. Terran caught a heel in one hand before the figure vanished behind a damaged concrete slab near the ditch. Kessa, 2 back with me. Observer. Person. That's all we know. The fire shifted from the road to the orchard gap. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. It found people carrying weight and Marek's stalled vehicle. The machine stayed outside the pattern. 2 shooters changing angle, Kessa said. 1 high, 1 drainage. Keep the high one down. I want the wounded deeper. The rifleman leaned into the breach and covered the move. A round chipped stone beside his cheek. He flinched, corrected, and held until Kessa dragged the last casualty behind a trunk line. Marek climbed through the passenger side with blood on one sleeve. Yours, Terran asked. No. Vehicle. dead enough to become useful, is less than #0. 4# is greater than. It sat canted in the wall, blocking the clean approach. Their shortest path to the machine had become a funnel the enemy owned. The breach saved most of the crew and killed the easy recovery. "Count," Terran said. Kessa gave her the living. Marek gave her the vehicle. The shooting thinned, then stopped with the same discipline that had started it. Terran sent Kessa farther down the tree line with the walking wounded. "Take the man with the chest wound first," Kessa said. "The leg wound can still help carry." "Do it." Marek stayed near the broken vehicle, using its bulk against the road. "It is less than #0. 5# is greater than." The rifleman finally tightened his glove strap, though his fingers missed the buckle twice. Rill did not follow the others. He stood at the collapsed drainage with his head low and his ears changing angle. Terran showed her left hand. Rill checked it and turned toward the damaged concrete. "Rill," Kessa called from the trees. "Wait." Water dripped from split roots. The scrape beneath the slab was softer than the engine and a wounded man's cough. Rill took 2 steps and stopped. His body tightened without the pull of a trail. Terran lowered beside him. Dust trembled at a crack. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than air." Move through it in a thin, uneven rhythm. Kessa came close enough to see Terran's face. Settling. Terran put 2 fingers near the crack and felt the warm break in the air. Breathing. A hand had dragged backward through the grit into the trapped space. The road was cut. The machine was untouched. Someone under the concrete was alive. Rill held on the crack beneath the slab, weight forward but controlled. The breathing stopped, returned, and dragged cloth across concrete. Terran eased closer while Kessa watched the orchard gap. "Life only?" Kessa asked. "Life only is less than #0. 3# is greater than, then we still don't know who we're carrying. We know we're not leaving him buried. We take him, we thin the wounded. We leave him, the retrieval element comes back with fewer burdens." Marek crouched behind the stalled recovery vehicle. "Both choices smell bad." "Which one moves?" Terran asked. "The one that gives us a living prisoner and makes me hate the truck." The trapped space opened toward the road through a narrow break in the rubble. From inside, a person could watch every recovery crew crossing the approach. The machine sat mostly hidden by the slab. Kessa followed Terran's line. "Is less than #0. 3# is greater than." He was facing the road, not the machine. "And he has friends. Soon." Terran pointed to the wounded. "You hold the open side. Rifleman stays with the casualty. Marek finds transport." Kessa held position. "Alive costs 4 hands. Then we use 4 hands. You missed the first flank. I know. If it happens again, I close the opening and leave you the body. Close the opening. Keep him breathing if you can." "That's not the same order." "It is today." Rill checked Terran's hand and settled behind the wall. Terran slid toward the opening. Dust moved. A hand appeared, empty and trembling enough to advertise weakness. Kessa said, "Too clean." Terran trusted the shoulder behind the hand. It was coiled away from the light. The observer drove through the gap before she could pull him clear. His shoulder struck her ribs. Grit rolled under her boot as the opening erased distance. She caught his arm, lost it, then pinned his weight against the slab before his other hand reached his belt. "Hands," Terran said. He answered with pressure, turning space into an exit. Kessa, open side. Closed is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Terran gave ground before her balance failed. The observer followed, exactly as she needed, then changed direction and drove her toward the drainage lip. A shot cracked beyond the orchard wall. Terran heard it behind her. "Left," Kessa shouted. Kessa's face had already turned. Terran corrected late. Fire struck the concrete lip and sprayed chips across her neck. A second attacker reached the drainage edge, while the observer held her close. "Rifleman down," Kessa called. The loose glove strap caught as he leaned from cover. "Is less than #0. 3# is greater than." He ripped it free, fired twice, and folded when a round struck high in his leg. "Hit," he said through his teeth. "Still working." "Not for long," Kessa answered. The observer twisted. Terran's grip burned. He tried to take her balance with him, but Kessa closed the open side and denied the last step. Terran used the slab against his forward pressure, brought him down into the grit, and held both arms while he spent his strength against stone. "Can you bind him?" Kessa asked. "If you keep the drainage off me." That's what I was doing. The retrieval element returned. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than." Their fire pinned Kessa away from the wounded rifleman, while another figure dragged an injured fighter toward the drainage. "They're carrying one," Kessa said. "They'll lose the edge." They chose him over the edge. The choice slowed Alden's people. Terran hauled the captive behind the stalled vehicle. He moved when forced and watched the approach road. "Kessa, rifleman. Merrick, transport." "Truck nearest the wall has a crushed wheel," Merrick called. "The second shakes hard. The third is ugly, but consistent." "Which one takes both?" "That one." He pointed to the least damaged utility truck. "It sounds bad, but it sounds the same bad every second. The other one changes its mind." "Room for the prisoner and the wounded?" Kessa asked. "If nobody gets sentimental about comfort." The rifleman tried to stand. His injured leg collapsed. "Floor first," Terran said. "Prisoner behind the front seats." Rifleman gets the wider side. Kessa shook her head. "Prisoner on the floor gives him our ankles. Then face him toward the seat frame and keep his hands visible. You're giving me 2 jobs. I'm giving you the only 2 that matter." Kessa pulled the rifleman by his vest. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than." His loose glove strap dragged dark through the dirt. "Stay awake," she told him. Planning to complain. "Do it quietly." The enemy withdrew with its wounded man. By carrying him, they gave up position and time. Terran loaded the captive, while Merrick brought the utility truck around. The engine shuddered without changing rhythm. Rill worked the edge of the concrete once the shooting moved away. One human trail pulled toward the broken drainage where the enemy carried its wounded. Deep steps repeated under shared weight. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The other ran toward the service yard, mixed by the captive, the rifleman's blood, Kessa, and the crew. 2 real trails, Kessa said. "Yes. Which do you want?" Terran studied the continuous drainage marks, then the muddled route, holding everyone they had to protect. "I want both. We can only carry one cleanly." Merrick started the truck. "Then decide before this engine remembers a new problem." The captive watched the road in silence. The rifleman breathed through pain. Rill could follow either human trail if Terran asked. "Move the wounded and the captive toward the service yard," Terran said. "Rill and I read the split while we go." Kessa climbed into the rear. "If they hit us again, the prisoner loses priority. People keep priority. The order inside that changes with the fire." The truck pulled away, carrying a living enemy, a wounded rifleman, and 2 few hands. Behind it, one genuine trail followed the enemy wounded into drainage. The other carried local blood toward the service yard. Neither offered safety. The utility truck rolled toward the service yard, with loose metal clicking beneath the floor. Each turn shook the captive and pulled a low sound from the wounded rifleman. "It is less than #0. 3# is greater than." The orchard route was closed. The concrete shell could not be held. Kessa sat in the rear compartment, with one hand on the captive and the other near the rifleman's shoulder. "He's fading." "He said he planned to complain," Terran said. "He lied." The rifleman opened his eyes. "Still here." Then keep the glove strap out of the door, Kessa told him. Rill moved beside the truck on the worn leash where the ground split into two genuine trails. The enemy wounded carry path dragged toward drainage, strong and continuous. 2 or 3 fighters had shared one injured man's weight. Is less than #0, 3 is greater than. The local route ran with the truck toward the service yard. Broken by tire marks, blood, captive steps, and every crewman who had crossed the ditch. A cleaner trail is drainage, Terran said. Cleaner doesn't mean command, Kessa answered. It means organized withdrawal. It means they carried somebody. Marek kept the truck's wheels on the firm edge of the ditch. She has a point. I heard it. Kessa leaned forward. Then leave me with the captive route. Take Rill and 1 rifle. We don't have 1 rifle to spare. Then don't take me is less than #0. 4 is greater than. The continuous trail pulled harder at Rill. Alden's people had shifted weight and moved together under cover. A command element might use a wounded carry to mask withdrawal. The idea was plausible enough to be dangerous. Kessa, with me, Terran said. We follow the clean trail. Kessa looked once at the rifleman. You're thinning the prisoner. I know what I'm doing. That's not what I asked. Terran held her gaze. Move. Kessa moved. Marek took the truck toward the service yard with the captive, the driver, and the wounded rifleman, is less than #0. 5 is greater than Terran, followed Rill into wet soil with Kessa guarding the bank. The dog committed to the strongest human passage without hesitation. 2 carried, maybe 3 walking, Kessa said. Same read. Same physical read. The distinction irritated Terran. The trail climbed past a broken culvert and bent toward a shallow cut where canvas had dragged across concrete. Blood darkened the weeds. Rill kept pulling. They didn't scatter, Terran said. They protected the center. They protected a wounded man. Alden recovers people when it costs him ground. We saw that is less than #0. 3 is greater than. We saw him recover 1 person. We didn't see where command went. Terran pushed the pace. Behind them, the truck engine roughened and returned as Marek corrected through the ditch. Rill led them to torn canvas and a depression where the enemy had shifted the wounded man from shoulder to shoulder. Beyond it lay low drainage ground, open enough to make a command halt absurd. Kessa stopped. Casualty route. Terran saw it at the same moment. No covered position waited ahead. The trail kept going because the injured fighter needed distance. The answer beneath Rill's feet was correct. Is less than #0. 3 is greater than her label was not. The first shots behind them arrived with the understanding. Truck route, Kessa said. They ran back. Sound flattened against the ditch and the utility engine. Terran lost direction, then found it in birds, lifting from the service yard side. Right bank, she said. Already there. Kessa crossed ahead of her. The re-attack hit the thinned captive route. Marek had driven the truck nose first behind a low berm, but the rear remained exposed. The rifleman knelt beside the open door with his injured leg folded beneath him. 2 is less than #0. 3 is greater than his loose glove strap whipped against the metal. Get the prisoner inside, Marek shouted. Doors pinned, the rifleman answered. The captive crouched behind him, waiting for an opening that might save him or kill him. Kessa reached the berm first. Rear angle, 2 shooters. Terran came over the dirt as rounds hit the truck. Loose metal under the floor clicked frantically. Rifleman down. I lose the door, he runs. Lose the door. He shifted the captive deeper instead. A round took him before he finished. Is less than #0. 3 is greater than. The loose strap caught once on the handle, then his hand dropped free. The captive lunged toward lower cover. Enemy fire crossed the opening and struck him high, throwing him back against the seat frame. The cell chose death over the risk he might speak. Kessa fired from the berm. Driver is alive. Marek is moving.
Get them out. What about the bodies? We cannot carry them under this angle. Taryn reached the truck late enough to see both men still and early enough to keep the driver alive. She pulled him behind the wheel well while Kessa took the opposite side. Marek reversed through the ditch, mud hammered the doors, the rear dragged across stone and cleared the fire lane. Rill returned, leash dark with wet soil. Taryn touched the rifleman's shoulder once before distance took him from reach. I pulled security. That was my decision. Kessa held the torn glove strap in one fist. Marek waited until the truck reached the service yard track. The trail answered where the wounded went. It didn't answer which route mattered. Rill had followed exactly what she asked. She offered the reward. He smelled it, glanced toward the truck, and left it untouched in her palm. Kessa climbed into the rear, put it away. Taryn did. Before the truck stopped, a field runner reached the service yard gate. Replacement crew moved north. They took fire after leaving shelter. Before they moved, Taryn asked, "Nothing." First strike came once they cleared the cover line. Marek killed the engine. The loose metal clicked once and settled. Kessa laid the glove strap beside the rifleman's empty place. The route changed. The timing didn't beyond the yard. Another crew was being hit because it had moved. The service yard took the survivors without stopping. A generator idled behind canvas while damaged vehicles crawled between lamps. Kessa directed the wounded toward cover and the dead toward the shaded end of the yard. She set the rifleman's torn glove strap on the folded canvas beside him. Taryn walked beside the utility truck. Nobody shifts again until I have a cleaner cue. Marek climbed down and caught the door when fatigue shook his hand. Cleaner than people being safe in shelter and hit after they leave. Cleaner than a trail I can name wrong. That trail was clean. My decision killed 2 men. Yes. Marek kept moving with the truck, and waiting here can kill the next crew. Kessa crossed between them with a box of dressings. South gate open. Orchard side taking intermittent fire. Replacement crew is still under cover. Keep them there, Taryn said. I don't command them. Then tell whoever does. Kessa looked toward the gate. They've already been told the northern gap is opening. A distant burst rolled across the yard. Taryn could not place it by sound. Service lamps trembled on the west fence, and 3 heads turned that way. West, Kessa, I have it. You had the sound behind us. I said I have it. Kessa moved the casualty cart behind concrete. Marek pointed at tire marks crossing the hard ground. 1 truck behind the generator. Another came through the maintenance gap with its mirror folded. A casualty cart rattled between them, forcing Taryn against the moving truck. She kept the discussion attached to wheels, gates, and people leaving cover. Anything more abstract would let her mistake feel cleaner than it had been. Local crews don't repeat roads when roads get watched, he said. They repeat the reason for moving. Different routes should break the pattern. Routes are for drivers, timing is for the enemy. That's still an inference, so is waiting. Taryn matched his pace. Show me one thing that repeats. Marek slapped the side of the moving utility truck. This crew came through the maintenance gap. The one before it used the generator lane. Both moved after recovery pressure changed. Both drew fire after the move. Kessa came back from the gate. Second report. Crew beyond the service road changed position less than a minute before the strike. Same route? Taryn asked. No, same reason. They were filling an opening. Marek gave her a flat look. You wanted cleaner. I want enough to stop guessing. You will not get enough. Wait for perfect certainty, and the replacement crew fills the northern gap in plain view. A mechanic waved the utility truck toward a clearer exit. The engine coughed. Taryn moved with it. The field handset came to Ketta. She passed it over without comment. Lida's voice stayed level beneath the generator. If recovery movement is exposing crews, terminate recovery in the field. Marek confirms the machine cannot be recovered safely. I own the northern gap consequence. Taryn looked at Marek. Can you confirm that now? Not from this yard. I can confirm the road is bad, the vehicle is worse, and the enemy wants us to try. Lida said, then the condition is not met yet. Understood. Taryn handed the field set back. Kessa loaded water and ammunition into the remaining vehicle. West fence again, she said. one man moving toward the orchard junction. The figure appeared between service lights. He had a clean withdrawal along the drainage edge. Instead, he crossed back toward broken stone with a view over the junction. Kessa tracked him. He gave up the drainage again. Then we stopped treating escape as his priority. Terran said, he could be gone. Kessa said, he keeps the view. Third time, Merrick followed the man's path. He is not protecting its exit. What is he protecting? Terran asked. The chance to watch somebody else use one. The deputy disappeared behind the wall, then reappeared farther south, again giving up distance for the same angle. Terran felt the old certainty press at her and refused it. Could be covering a wounded withdrawal. Kessa shook her head. Then he'd face the drainage. He's facing the junction. Could be bait. Everything can be bait after you say it twice. Merrick did not smile. She has a point. The replacement crew's engine turned over beyond the shelter line. Kessa looked north. They're preparing to move. Terran found the engine by lamp reflections on the vehicle roofs. I need one field confirmation, she said. Merrick stepped Troshfadar long enough to point at the maintenance gap, not the orchard road. Everyone uses it when they're scared. Take the wash beside the fence and cut back after the lamps. Kessa closed the rear door. I'll take the outside. You stay on my right. Your right is the noisy side. Then correct me before the wall does. The deputy crossed the sight line again, surrendering more escape. Terran made the choice before the replacement crew cleared shelter. We test the sight line. Kessa joined her at once. Rill came to Terran's left hand, alert and quiet. Merrick called after them. If he gives up the drainage twice more, stop asking whether he wants to leave. Terran and Kessa went through the maintenance gap at a run. Gravel shifted. Water moved through the wash ahead. Ahead, the deputy slipped behind the orchard wall and kept the junction in view. Terran ran the wash beside the fence with Kessa half a step behind, and Rill working close to her left hand. Irrigation water moved under the wall beneath their boots. Ahead, the deputy had the drainage edge open to him. He ignored it and cut back toward the junction. Fourth time, Kessa said, he still may be buying somebody distance. Then he would watch the drainage. At the irrigation boundary, Rill lowered his nose to wet soil and found one fresh passage. Where mud had broken under a single set of boots. He pulled into it, then shortened his stride as heat worked through him. Fresh? Kessa said. Physical passage only. I know what the dog knows. Terran heard the edge in her voice. Then tell me what you know. He wants us on this side of the wall. I don't know why. The deputy crossed to a new opening and stopped where the junction returned to view. He feinted the drainage, Kessa said. Now he has your bad ear against the stone. Terran changed places with her. You take the wall side. That leaves the wash open. Rill holds the trail. You hold the angle. Rill's sides worked hard. The path remained readable, but his useful time was shrinking. Terran keyed the handset. Merrick, we're on the junction line. Tell me what moves. Engine vibration filled Merrick's reply. I have the local road. Give me a minute. We may not have one, then stop using it badly. The orchard opened onto the junction below. Rill stopped at the shade line and looked to Terran's hand. She left him there rather than push him through heat for an answer he could not give. Kessa knelt behind the wall. Replacement shelter, low, left. A crew began loading a vehicle below. Merrick came back on the handset. Replacement crew. They're preparing to leave for the northern gap. Farther east of relief vehicle changed route toward displaced operators. Relief vehicle is changing route, Merrick said. Different job. Same opening. Kessa tracked the deputy. He just gave up the ditch again. The man moved toward a better view of the two vehicles instead of farther cover. Terran felt the answer begin before she trusted it. The machine had created an opening. Movement would reveal who filled it and who collected the displaced. He's not guarding the junction, she said. He's watching the handoff, Kessa answered. The deputy vanished behind the wall. Down, Kessa said. Terran heard footsteps to the left. Kessa's eyes snapped right side. The deputy drove Terran's shoulder first into an orchard trunk. Air left her. The handset fell into wet grass. He used the wall echo against her hearing. Kessa shifted for a clear line, but the deputy kept Terran between them. Can't take it, she said. Close his ditch, he'll push you into the wash. Then take the ditch. Kessa moved independently, circling low, to cut the retreat instead of waiting for another order. The deputy broke Taryn's grip and shoved her across the irrigation cut. Her boots sank. He followed, trying to turn her back to the junction while keeping his own face toward it. "You still need the view," Taryn said. He gave no answer. His elbow struck her ribs. Pain closed around her breath and weakened her right hand. He drove again, forcing her toward the wall opening he had prepared. Kessa called, "Ditch closed, he has the wall only." The deputy used Taryn's failed grip to pull her off balance. She caught Bark with one palm, let his pressure carry past her, and turned him away from the sightline for the first time. He recovered quickly. His shoulder hit her chest, and both of them slid toward the irrigation channel. The junction remained visible over his shoulder. Below, the replacement crew's vehicle cleared half its shelter. The relief vehicle completed its turn. "The first crew fills the gap," Taryn said through a shortened breath. "The second collects the displaced." His eyes cut toward the junction. Kessa stepped into his retreat. No ditch, no wall, pick the water. He drove at Taryn instead. She used the broken stone edge to stop his forward line, but his forearm crushed her injured ribs again. Her grip failed completely. The deputy tore free and reached higher ground. Kessa cut him off with the angle she had chosen. He could take the drainage and live, or turn back for one more look. He turned back. Taryn caught his coat at the shoulder and pulled him off the stable stone. Kessa blocked the step that would have saved him. Wet soil collapsed beneath all three of them. Taryn rolled clear. The deputy fell into the channel, struck the concrete edge, and stopped moving. The return path slid after him. Mud and broken stone buried the wash toward the service yard. Kessa crouched beside Taryn. "Can you breathe? Enough! Your hand?" Later, Rill stayed at the shade line, chest heaving. He had reacquired the trail, and nothing beyond it. Kessa recovered the handset. Merrick, repeat the movement. Replacement crew leaving shelter for the northern gap. Relief vehicle turning toward displaced operators. "What changes if the machine stays recoverable?" Taryn asked. "Crews keep answering it." Merrick said, "Local drivers improvise roads. The enemy watches who takes the empty place." The conclusion no longer needed the deputy alive. Alden wants to know which crew takes the northern gap. Kessa looked at the buried return route. Then the machine keeps asking the question. Taryn pressed the handset against her vest. Pain shortened every breath. The order came clean. "Terminate recovery." Merrick answered, "Confirm, we make the machine unusable." The denial order left one route back to the machine, and the enemy could see all it. Taryn led from the orchard edge with Kessa on her right, and Rill close enough to touch her knee. Merrick brought the recovery vehicle out from the service yard line, its damaged front pointed toward the field. "Exposed from the wall to the machine," Kessa said. "I see it. You hear the first shot. Use my shoulders. Don't wait for me to ask." Merrick's voice came over the handset. "I can reach the machine. I cannot promise the vehicle comes back." "It doesn't need to. That is a very unfriendly sentence." Drive. The machine sat in late glare above churned soil and burned rubber. Tarson's wrists tight each time she drew a full breath. She shortened the inhale and kept moving. Fire reached the approach before they did. Dirt lifted ahead of Kessa, then walked toward the recovery vehicle. "Low berm," Kessa said, one moving left. Taryn watched the berm instead of chasing the sound. A shoulder rose. "Hold him down. Merrick gets 10 yards. Kessa fired and the shooter dropped. Merrick drove another 10 yards. Rill stopped at a shallow fold in the field, body tight around fresh human presence nearby. Near the fold, Taryn said. "Friendly?" Kessa asked. "Human, good enough." It bought seconds. Kessa covered the fold while Taryn crossed behind the recovery vehicle. The machine's broken knock grew louder. Merrick reached it and climbed down. He put one hand against damaged metal, listened while rounds snapped over the field. "Give me the truth," Taryn said. "The ground is torn, the recovery gear is compromised, and the approach belongs to them. Can it be moved safely?" "Safe recovery is gone." Taryn keyed the handset. "Standing condition is met. Recovery is terminated." Lida's answer came through wind and engine noise. "Then the northern gap becomes real. I own that consequence." The line closed. Merrick looked from the machine to the recovery vehicle. You want effect, not elegance. I want it unusable. Kessa shifted behind the crushed tire. The berm shooter is moving for the cab. Can you stop him without leaving the fold? Taryn asked. For a few seconds. Merrick, those seconds are yours. I heard her. Then make them expensive. Kessa changed angle. The shooter dropped behind dirt, and Merrick reached the driver's door before the lane reopened. Kessa called from the berm side. Second shooter is trying for Merrick. Taryn changed position. Merrick inside the vehicle. Kessa's keep the fold. I'll take the rear angle. You have half a breath, Kessa said. Then spend yours wisely. Merrick climbed back into the cab. The recovery vehicle shuddered at idle. An attacker rose behind the machine, using its intact bulk as cover. Taryn could chase him around the flank or hold the line Merrick needed. She held. Rear angle moving, she said. I have him. Kessa answered, drive Merrick now. Merrick drove the recovery vehicle into the machine with blunt grinding force. Metal folded. The broken knock became a shriek that carried across the field. The vehicle bucked, lost traction, and pushed again. More, Merrick shouted. The frame is dropping, Kessa said. Again. Taryn ordered. The recovery vehicle struck once more. Panels collapsed inward. Hot oil spread into the churned soil and the machine settled crooked against its ruined support. Direct across the field, Kessa pulled Merrick from the cab while Taryn covered them. Rear movement, Kessa warned. Rill turned toward it, gave one sharp cue, then lost the scent in heat and oil. Taryn used the warning. A figure came around the crushed vehicle, expecting Merrick to be trapped beside it. She forced him back behind the dirt without following. He's moving away, Kessa said. Let him, he'll rejoin. The machine dies first. Merrick stayed low beside the vehicle. It will not return to service, confirmed the machine. Unusable, the old engine knock had stopped. For the first time since the approach began, no mechanical answer. Move off the machine, Taryn said. Kessa, Merrick first. Drill with me. They crossed behind the ruined recovery vehicle as fire searched for a new angle. The local pressure eased, but not because the enemy had quit. Engines changed note beyond the orchard. Kessa turned toward the first on north shelter. The replacement crew left cover to fill the northern gap. Its vehicle accelerated onto the service road. A second engine changed direction farther east. Relief vehicle, Merrick said. It was going straight. Now it's turning for the displaced operators. Taryn heard the two rolls separately. One crew moving north to fill the empty position. One vehicle bending toward people stranded by the failed recovery. Which one drew fire? Kessa asked. Neither yet, Taryn said. A pause followed. Alden Sull had not expected the machine to be denied. The first movement gave them new information. Fire shifted across the field, searched north, then stopped. Merrick looked east. They saw the replacement crew, and they're choosing some, Taryn said. The relief vehicle completed its turn. Fire reached it almost at once. Relief route taking fire, Kessa called. Taryn keyed the handset. Machine is gone. Replacement crew is moving north. Relief vehicle changed route and is under attack. Lita asked, can the relief vehicle clear? Not without losing the displaced operators. Then the northern gap stays exposed until they do. The relief vehicle swerved behind a low rise. Another burst followed its engine note. Alden had adapted after the first movement and chosen the second route for live confirmation. The relief vehicle swerved behind the low rise under fire. Taryn chose against her old protection pattern. Go with the replacement crew, Taryn said. Stay off, buddy. Kessa glanced toward Merrick. That leaves you and him thin. That's the point. They've already modeled your point. Then give them a new one. Kess ran for the replacement vehicle. She climbed onto the far side, then slapped the roof twice. Driver, cut speed at the first dust line, she called. Do not chase the lead vehicle. The driver obeyed. The replacement crew dropped back instead of presenting the expected northern movement. Fire reached the side where Kessa should have been riding and found empty ground. Taryn tracked the missed line. First prediction failed. Partly, Merrick said over the handset, they still have the road. He drove the utility vehicle onto a narrow service line hidden behind a drainage berm. The path was rough and local. Where does that put you? Taryn asked. behind their first angle and ahead of the drainage access. Can you block it? If this truck agrees to one last bad idea. A figure near the relief route checked his watch once. Alden. He lowered his hand and signaled forward. Kessa's voice cut in. They're closing distance. 2 on the road, 1 drainage. Replacement crew! Still moving. I changed their spacing. Cost, they lost time. They kept people. Kessa's decision bought the crew room to survive the second fire lane. Alden's first move missed the expected protector and road. He adapted and brought the cell forward along drainage. Operator hunt, Terran said. Merrick answered. Then I make them choose the concrete. The uneven engine pulse carried Merrick toward the access. Terran and Rill moved parallel through dust. Her ribs scraped with each breath, and Rill's pace flattened. Kessa stayed with the replacement crew through another turn. They've shifted to the north shoulder. Fire is following the vehicle, not me. Keep them moving. They'll enter the gap late. Late is alive. Merrick reached the drainage access first. Blocks possible. Once I turn across it, I do not turn back commit. The utility vehicle swung broadside across wet concrete. One wheel climbing the drainage lip as the rear frame jammed against the berm. Block set, Merrick said. Only then did enemy fire reach him. Rounds struck the vehicle body. Merrick had already left the driver's seat and dropped beside the frame. The next impact drove metal inward. His lower leg caught between the wheel housing and broken concrete. The handset went silent. Merrick? Kessa answered from the northern road. I saw the hit. Stay with the replacement crew. They're clear of the exposed section, then rejoin. Not through the main road. Kessa gave the replacement driver one final correction. Hold north. Do not turn back for us. She cut across the service line toward Terran. Replacement crew is north of the exposure, Kessa reported. They lost 1 tire and kept every person. Your change held them together. It also cost me the direct route back. Use Merrick's line. Terran reached Merrick after the block held. Blood spread beneath his leg. He gripped the frame but did not try to stand. Can you move the foot? She asked. No. Can you drive? No. Can you tell me what the block bought? The drainage route. They have to carry their wounded along the outer line. One of the unnamed operators dropped beside him. Stay with Merrick, Terran said. Pressure only. Get him under the frame. Merrick caught her sleeve. Do not turn this into my scene. I wasn't planning to. Good. I dislike crowded work. A blast struck the drainage wall beyond the vehicle. Pressure flattened sound into a dull white silence. Rill stopped mid-step, his body locked, then turned in a tight circle toward the last stable edge of the road. Terran showed him the hand cue. His eyes found it late. He stepped once, stopped, and stumbled back. Kessa arrived from the northern side. Dog is off rhythm. I know. Do you pull him? Not yet. Terran offered the reward Rill knew. He smelled it and turned away. The refusal broke the old task rhythm again. Kessa looked toward the withdrawing cell. They're carrying 1 wounded. 4 moving around him. Can you hold their open side? With the 2 operators still standing. Take them. I keep Rill on visible passage only. Merrick stayed behind the block while the unnamed operator worked beside him. Before Terran left, he pointed toward the low industrial shape beyond the drainage. Pump station. Only covered place that can watch the northern service road. Any other exit. Not with my truck across the drainage. Then that's where they go. That's where they can still see. Terran chose pursuit. The cell withdrew along the outer drainage line, slowed by the wounded fighter they carried. Kessa and the 2 operators took the open side, forcing the enemy away from the service road. One attacker turned back and fired to recover a dropped man. They're spending time again. Kessa said, make them spend more. Kessa shifted the operators lower, cutting the direct retreat. The cell carried both wounded farther toward the pump station. Rill followed the visible passage in uneven bursts, then circled back when the scent tangled. Do not push him past the stable line, Kessa said. I won't. You said that like you're arguing with yourself. I am. The pump station rose from dust, concrete and rust above a dark runoff line. Merrick's vehicle block had closed the easy drainage escape. The remaining approach led to the perimeter. Rill reached the outer concrete and froze. Air moved through the structure, his nose lifted. and his body tightened around fresh human presence. "How many?" one operator asked. Terran answered, "He found people, that's all." Rill circled back to the last stable boundary and would not cross it. Kessa checked the entry shadow. "We leave him outside." "Yes, with who?" "Rear operator. The rest come with us." Terrain's right hand trembled. Her ribs allowed only shallow breath. Marek was out, and Rill's working rhythm ended at the perimeter. Kessa looked at the intermittent work light inside. "Then we go without both." Terrain left Rill with handler support and faced the pump station with Kessa and 2 functional operators. Rills stopped at the pump station perimeter and would not cross the wet concrete. Terran left him with the rear operator and took Kessa plus 2 others toward the drainage entry. One carried the compact shield from the service yard. The other guarded the outer runoff line. Kessa pointed to the rusted grating. Marek's block closed the lower drainage. "They have the apron or the pump floor." "Apron first," Terran said. "Shield draws the entry. You take the opposites barrier. Outer line stays closed." "And you?" "I use the gap." That answer gets worse every time. Runoff echoed beneath intermittent work light. Movement inside returned from 3 directions. Terran flexed her right hand. The grip tremor came back. The shield operator crossed the apron. Fire struck the shield edge and drove him behind a low barrier. 2 at entry, Kessa called. 1 pulling wounded deeper. Kessa said, "They're pulling wounded." "Entry gap in 3 outer line?" "Closed." The second operator answered. 1 tried it and turned back. "Shield draw." "Kest, break, right." Kessa fired into the barrier edge. The entry defender shifted. The sec hauled the wounded farther inside. "Gap," Kessa said. Terran crossed with a shallow breath locked under her ribs. She reached the grating, pulled the shield operator through, and turned before the defenders sealed the entry. The outer operator came last and set himself against the root behind them. Inside, runoff hammered below the grating. Every footstep became several. A flash appeared to Terran's left while the report struck from behind. She turned late and hit wet metal with her shoulder. "Wrong side," Kessa said. "Watch my body." Kessa angled toward a column on the right. Terran followed the movement instead of the sound. A defender crossed between columns, covering another man who dragged the wounded toward the pump floor. "Shield forward," Terran said. "Outer operator, hold entry. Kessa with me." The shield operator advanced to the second barrier. The outer operator denied a defender trying to circle back toward the grating. Alden's voice cut through the echo. "Fall by pairs, keep the send moving." "Pairs," Kessa said. 1 fires, 1 carries. They are trading time for people." Kessa moved around the barrier. A burst struck the grating near her feet. She twisted away, hit the railing, and took the impact through her shoulder. Her left arm dropped. "Should her?" Terran asked. "Works badly." "Legs work. Stay behind the shield." "No, I can still read the light." Terran's hands slipped on the wet railing. She caught herself with her forearm. Rib pain cut the next breath short. A shadow crossed behind a column. Alden's old hip dragged once during the longer move, costing him a step without taking control from him. 30 seconds, he called. "Close the floor." The command operator answered from deeper inside. "Send is dirty, make it clean." Terran moved toward the voices and hit empty concrete. Kessa grabbed her vest, body crossed right. A muzzle flash struck from the left. The echo turned them again. "Need a visual," Terran said. Kessa reached a hanging work lamp with her good hand. "Then take 1. She tore it free and threw it across the runoff channel. The lamp struck metal and swung low. Its moving shadow crossed the spray. Ripples broke around 1 pair of boots approaching center while louder footsteps bounced from an empty wall. 1 body center, Kessa said. Second behind the send. Terran used the cue once. She changed direction behind the nearest barrier as Alden closed the distance. He came in low, keeping his body close enough to make her hearing nearly useless. "Move away from the send." Terran caught his forearm against the barrier. "You're out of time." "So are you." He drove her into the railing. Her ribs folded around the impact. Her right hand closed on his sleeve, then failed. Alden tore free and tried to turn her back toward the command position. "Command operator moving." The outer operator called, "Keep him off the send." Terran said. The shield operator engaged the remaining defender. The outer operator shifted from the entry and cut the command operator's route toward drainage. Kessa, injured arm pinned to her body, held the lane with her other hand. Alden used Terran's order and surged forward. She lost the barrier and struck the floor on one knee. 10 seconds, the command operator shouted. Alden reached for her failing hand. Terran shifted the hold to her forearm, drove him against the railing, and trapped him there, alive, briefly controllable. Take him, the shield operator said. Send is moving, Kessa answered. Kessa shouted, both hands on Alden gives the send time. Terran answered. Then we lose the prisoner. Alden twisted, expecting her to tighten the capture. Terran released it, his weight came forward. She drove his face into the iron railing, turned him with the rebound, and slammed him onto the wet concrete. He tried to rise. The injured hip failed under the new angle. Terran shoved him flat and struck once more until his hand stopped reaching for the command lane. Now, she said. Kessa kicked the swinging lamp into the command operator's path. The flash broke his line for 1 instant. The shield operator closed from the front. The outer operator hit from the drainage side and dragged him away from the transmitter. The last defender moved for Alden. Kessa left barrier. Terran called, already there. Kessa blocked him despite the damaged shoulder. The shield operator forced him down behind concrete. The command operator reached once for the send control. Hands off, the outer operator said. He pulled the man backward. Terran crossed the last steps, knocked the reaching hand away, and drove the transmitter from the wet ledge before the send completed. Runoff filled the pump floor. Alden lay motionless beside the railing. The command operator was down. One operator bled through his sleeve, and Kessa held her shoulder tight against her ribs. Status, Terran said. The outer operator checked the broken position. Full live confirmation stayed here. Earlier observer? Kessa asked. One got out before we closed the floor, the shield operator said. He carried root fragments, not the finished pattern. What escaped? Terran asked. Protection changes and altered roots, the shield operator said, not the full replacement pattern. Terran tried to close her right hand. It shook and stopped halfway. Rill remained outside. Marek's vehicle block still denied the lower drainage, though Marek would never walk through it. Kessa nodded toward the road. Strike window. Alden and the intelligence inside him were gone. Get the wounded out, she said. Tonight tells us whether we stopped enough. 6 weeks after the pump station fight. Terran stood inside the rehab and battery shelter while the strike window passed without its expected alert tone. Canvas shifted in the wind. A charger fan rattled against its housing. An old utility engine coughed outside and settled into a rough idle. The marked time cleared. Lita's voice came through the field handset. Full of confirmation was stopped. The northern city kept enough coverage for this strike window. 1 unit remains abandoned. Partial exposure remains on the northern routes. Any change to that last fact? Terran asked. No. Did the abandoned unit move? No. It remains outside the useful coverage line. Any action required tonight. Continue the altered movement schedule. Do not restore the old protection order. That is the report. The line went quiet. Lita had offered facts and nothing that could be mistaken for judgment. Terran set the handset beside a tray of worn battery contacts. Her ribs no longer seized during an ordinary breath, though a deep inhale still pulled at the old injury. Her right hand closed more reliably now. If she held it too long, the tremor returned. Marek worked from a low stool near the battery racks, the empty space below his amputated leg visible beneath a folded blanket. He had not returned to active duty. 2 shelter workers stood beside a battery cradle while he checked the straps from his changed working height. Rear strap first. Marek said, if you tighten the front one, the cradle walks when the floor tilts. The younger worker reached for the wrong buckle. The other rear, they look the same. They become different when one drops a battery on your foot. Outside, the utility engine coughed again. Marek tilted his head. That thing changes its mind every 3rd cough. My mother would make it walk home alone. The worker near the flap said, it passed inspection, then inspection should drive it. Terran carried a tray of charged cells toward the lower rack. Marek's reach ended below the top shelf now, so she put the tray where his hands met it without strain. The block held. He checked one battery contact before looking up. You used it, that was all. He slid the tray toward the worker beside him. Contacts facing out, Merrick said. You should not need a second hand to find them in the dark. The younger worker turned one battery. This side? That side if you enjoy dropping it. The worker reversed it. Now it can fail in a useful direction, Merrick said. Rill rested near the far shelter pole, where the filtered light stayed even. A dropped wrench struck the floor near the open flap. His body tightened at the sharp sound, and his attention pulled toward the nearest stable edge. Sorry. The workers piss it up slow, Lyle, Taryn told him. Then keep working. She stood in the old handling position and gave Rill the familiar visual cue. His eyes found her hand, but he did not move at the old speed. One ear shifted toward the charger fan. His weight stayed back. Merrick watched without comment. Taryn lowered her hand. The worker asked, Again? Not from here. She moved 2 paces left, clearing the battery cart and Merrick's stool from Rill's view. The brighter strip of filtered light reached her hand. Can he see that? Merrick asked. He can see me. Better arrangement. Taryn made the cue slower and kept her body square to Rill. Clear the cart another foot, she told the worker. Does he need that much? He needs to see the whole choice. The worker moved it. Rill's front feet advanced first. He paused, checked the shelter edge, and crossed at a careful pace. Good, the worker said. Taryn raised one finger without looking away from Rill. Let him finish. Rill stopped where the clearer cue directed him. The response was correct. It was also changed. Taryn touched his shoulder once, down. He lowered himself more slowly than before. Merrick tapped the battery cradle. Now move it 6 inches left. The workers shifted it. Too far. You said 6? I said 6 inches. That was optimism. Bring it back 2. The utility engine coughed outside for the 3rd time. Merrick pointed toward the flap. Shut it down before it invents a 4th opinion. The worker went outside and killed the engine. The shelter returned to canvas, fan noise, and hands moving over ordinary equipment. Taryn lifted another battery tray. Rill rose when she faced him and waited for the clearer cue. Merrick corrected the cradle angle from his stool while the workers tightened the straps. Rear first, he reminded them. Taryn shifted into the light. Rill crossed the remaining distance at his altered pace and settled beside the workbench. Merrick checked the final strap. The shelter kept working through the night.